Welcome to the final preparation for your What Does It Take to Be Successful in a Market-Based Economy paper. You should have your paper on the screen in front of you, or a printed out copy of it in front of you. You also want to have your yellow rubric in front of you, as well as having your content rubric in front of you, and any other papers that you might need to have as a quick and handy reference. All right, well, let's start with the basics. We'll look at your MLA format. On the far left-hand side, well, first of all, your page should have one inch margins or thereabouts. They should be close to 1 inch. Sometimes the defaults on a Google Doc are a little bit different. Also, you want to make sure that your font is in either Arial or Times New Roman, and you want to maintain the 12-point font just for being standard. Now, you don't want to do anything to your title. We'll talk about that in a second. So there is nowhere in the paper where you should have anything that is italicized or larger or bolded or anything like that. Let's take a look at your heading, your 4-line MLA heading. If you look at the informative essay instructions tip sheet on the bottom of the front page, you will see that your paper has to be in standard MLA format, and you're using the 4-line heading. Now on the first line on the left, we have your name. On the second line, you could put Leonard/Thompson or Thompson/Leonard, or you can use Mr. or Mrs., that doesn't matter. On the third line, you should have LA/SS Project Session 2. And then on the fourth line, you'll have the date. Now, MLA uses the European style of date, so you would simply put 17 Jan or January, and then 2014. Everything on that heading should be double spaced. Your title is double spaced down from your heading, not quadruple spaced, not triple spaced, just double spaced. Your title should have something to do with your paper. You may even use, what it takes to be successful in a market-based economy. Or you may use parts of that title. You can use something about economics, something about your job, something about your future. Really, as long as it makes sense, that'll be great. You don't ever put a period after your title, although if it's a question, obviously you'll use a question mark. You don't want to underline, capitalize, well, you don't want to underline or bold or italicize your title either. Just leave it plain. You do, however, want to capitalize the first word, the last word, and all important words in between. So if you were doing what it takes to be successful in a market-based economy, then you would capitalize what and economy, as well as market, successful, does, and take. Or what it takes, yeah, you know what I mean. All right, so that would get you, as long as you have everything double spaced, that's including between your paragraphs, only double spaced, and have all of the requirements that I just mentioned, you will have your 3 points for MLA format. Sorry, I know that was long and tedious, but now we can move on to the meat of the paper. Okay, in your introductory paragraph, you started with a funnel introduction. This means your introduction starts with something more general. You don't just jump in like, I chose this. You kind of lead into it a little bit. And you progress to your specific point, which is really your thesis. Now, I've provided a thesis for you, which you may use. However, I'd like you to change some of the wording at least. I can understand if you want to use you want to mention income, expenses, and opportunity costs in a market-based society. That's an important part of the thesis statement, but you could change the beginning or ending of the one that I had given you. And that again is on the instructions and tips sheet. All right, in your introductory paragraph, we've already said it should be a funnel introduction. You know that your thesis statement should be the last sentence of the introductory paragraph. It should be underlined, if you would do that for me, please. And it should only be one sentence. Those are standard rules of thesis statements on any paper. In your introductory paragraph, did you discuss what job you've chosen? Maybe what attributes you have that will make you want to choose that have made you want to choose this job? Have you talked about the choice that you've made? Maybe you've even mentioned a couple of other jobs that you thought about but decided to not go with. You might at this opportunity also mention some of your opportunity costs or things that you've had to give up or sacrifice, even though you will be discussing those later in the paper as well. It's almost like a little preview of what you're going to be discussing. You give your thesis statement and then boom, you move on. Okay, your introductory paragraph is worth 3 points as well. And then we get into the body paragraphs. These are worth 10 points apiece. You have to follow the order that we've given you. So your first body paragraph should be about gaining employment or income. Okay, same thing. So basically you're answering the two questions: what is my income and why is it a good choice for me? Hopefully it is a good choice and you've had a good experience with this. You're going to you do this all in one paragraph, but don't forget you'll still need to incorporate transitions in between your sections. In body paragraph 1, you should have your income, obviously, and you should have at least one piece of cited research for that. Now you're going to want to reference Mr. Thompson's paper about putting in documentation and references. We've talked about it in class already too. You know, J1, C2, budget. You know, you want to have a variety of sources. You always want to have, anytime that you use a number or a statistic, figures from your sheets, those are what you want to document. Okay, just show, you can't just say, I'm going to get a $30,000 Lexus. You have to say, where did you get the idea that it was $30,000? So you just document that using Mr. Thompson's worksheet and his blended schools page, and you might just even designate it as, you know, J1 or C2. Don't forget the period always goes after the parentheses at the end. Okay, and that's the only place you need to have punctuation. If you have something where you've gotten it from two sites and you've talked about it, both of them in the same sentence, you could do J1, comma, C2, put those both in parentheses, put the period at the end, and boom, you're done. Okay, so you have talked in your first body paragraph about the future, possible future impacts as far as your income, and your choice of a job. So you're discussing the details of your profession, the income. Don't forget he asked you to stay within the 25th percentile as far as income, so you can't just be like J.K. Rowling just from the get-go. You can discuss the job availability. I think this is also called job outlook. It's the figures related with like how popular is that job going to be, how many nurses are going to be needed, you know, in the future, how many painters are going to be needed in the future. Okay, some jobs will become obsolete with technology. Okay, so what education did you need to get this job? Why do you want to get this job? And here we don't want to repeat the introductory paragraph, but you might have some other facts to add. You can talk about the job satisfaction rates, and that website was on your instructions and tip sheets. And what circumstances did you consider when you thought about the amount of money you needed in order to achieve your goals and your dreams? Okay, so don't forget topic sentence. That kind of is an overall umbrella for this paragraph, a concluding sentence that kind of wraps it up and or leads into the next section. And you want to make sure that you have at least two pieces of cited evidence in there. One is going to go with what is my income, and one is going to go with why is this profession a good choice for me. You may have more than two, but at least two. All right, let's move on to body paragraph 2. Again, we're looking for a good, strong topic sentence that functions as an umbrella over the whole paragraph. You're looking to make sure that you did include a concluding sentence, and you want to make sure that you've covered your two areas in this section, and that you have a cited piece of research for each of those areas. Now, even though the areas are different a little bit, they are still in one paragraph, so let's make sure that you use transitions as well. So one question, the first question is, what are 2 or 3 expected expenses? Now this might include your housing or your car, things that you know you're going to have to pay for in the future. And 2 really is fine, but you should explain each of those with at least 2 sentences. The second section is, what might two or so of my unexpected expenses be? So don't just say what they are and what the expense is and cite it, but explain it. Go into some detail. Talk about the consequences. How might that affect you, your lifestyle, your family? And this is going to lead you right into paragraph 3. Paragraph 3 deals with opportunity, cost, or scarcity. If you're still a little fuzzy on those words, really it means what you have to give up, what you have to sacrifice. And so maybe you don't have the nicest car all the time. Maybe you don't have the nicest house, the biggest house on the street. Maybe you don't have a lawn service, or maybe you don't get to go out to Starbucks every day. You don't have the money for that. But opportunity costs do affect all of us. We all have to make choices. So these are the tough decisions you've had to make. So come up with 2 significant opportunity costs. Don't forget to use transitions in between them. Don't forget to use a topic sentence that explains what you're going to be talking about in this paragraph, as well as a conclusion sentence that sort of wraps up what you discussed. And finally, this brings us over to our conclusion. Let me go down a screen here for you. Your conclusion paragraph. Now, we've given you the easy way and given you a thesis statement that you could only slightly adapt. Now I'd like you can still use the same 3 words, the income, expenses, and opportunity cost, but again, you just want to change that sentence around some more. You're going to, in this paragraph, sort of sum up your overall point, kind of draw some conclusions, talk a little bit in depth about the relevance of your point. Like, why is this important? Why do we all need to think along these lines? Okay, so don't forget to make us smarter and continue to use transitions where appropriate. All right, that concludes going over the little bits and pieces of your paper. You are not required to have cited evidence in your introduction or conclusion, but if you do have figures or statistics that you have included in either one of them, do make sure that you have documented or cited them so that Mr. Thompson and I know where you got that information. Might want to do a quick double check at this point to make sure that you have at least 2 pieces of cited research in each of your body paragraphs. And those would be one with each of the main questions. You might want to reference back to your instruction sheet on that on the back. All right, let's take a quick look at style. I've mentioned transitions probably 6 times now. You want to make sure that you have appropriate academic tone. You want to make sure you're using good vocabulary words, excellent word choice, that you're not using words like thing, that you're not overdoing words, even phrases like I think. It's obvious to me that it's you doing the thinking. You're the one writing the paper. So you don't want to be wordy. You want to be nice and clear. You want to use your proper usage. And let's see if you can just run through the paper real quickly. You can even hit the pause button here and see if you can take out any contractions that you find. Again, the word thing is not acceptable. It is okay if you're switching between first and third person, but let's just do a quick check also to make sure that they sound right, that they're appropriately used. Those are your style points. Your grammar points will include complete sentences. Do your nouns and verbs agree? Do you have pronoun antecedent agreement? Are you, using your verb tense the best that you can, although for this project, again, there are some relaxed ideas about that. And what about your punctuation? You really should not be using exclamation marks in a formal paper, and this is still a formal paper, even though we've let you use I occasionally. You want to make sure that with your full sentences, that you have periods and commas in the right places, semicolons if you know how to use them, and of course end punctuation, especially after the cited research. That period really needs to be at the end of the parentheses around the cited research. Now, if you've done your best on this paper, you've worked really hard. You have completed Mr. Thompson's 2-sided sheet. You've thoroughly completed your outline. You have gone the extra mile to make sure that you have the appropriate word choice, tone, and style. You have paid attention when we're talking about MLA formatting, and you've made sure that your whole paper is double-spaced and that you've followed the other recommendations. You have made sure that you have documented what needed to be documented, and you have proofread your paper for grammar and punctuation. That is the way that you get a 50 out of 50. Now, I am not grading Mr. Thompson's side of it, the content rubric, but I will take a moment to go over it for now. So if you're finished with the LA part, that's fine. You can be done. If you want to hang on for just a few minutes here and listen to me talk about the content rubric, then let's look at it for those purposes. His criteria really was about employment, understanding expenses, and opportunity costs. Those are the three areas in which your body paragraphs elaborate. If you are an expert at talking about employment, you will be using multiple strong and accurate supporting details, and you'll make a clear connection to the essential question, which is, of course, what does it take to be successful in a market-based economy? You will use multiple references, and so not every reference will be budget, budget, budget. Again, follow his recommendations and the handout that he gave you for references, and look at blended schools again. If you look at your second body paragraph, thinking about, where does our money go? He asked you to talk about expected and unexpected expenses, and so trying to make sure that you're being logical here. Multiple, strong, and accurate supporting details, a clear connection to the essential question, and again, multiple references. Your opportunity costs, we really have the same here. Have you used in your third body paragraph when you're talking about your home size and location, your car, your extra spending? What else have you had? What things have you had to give up? Maybe you don't get to spend a month in Europe every July or go to the French Riviera or something. Try to be somewhat real about that. Or maybe it could be something as simple, like I said, as not going to Starbucks every day. But again, you want to make sure you have multiple strong and accurate supporting details and a clear connection to the essential question with the relevance explained. Okay, so you can either get a 5 on each of these, which is expert, a 4 on each of these, which would include mastery, a 3, which is proficient, or an unsatisfactory, which is 0. And you can bet your bottom dollar that if you don't have your references or enough information, that you may be revisiting this project sooner than you had anticipated. And it will just delay your getting into being a success in a market-based economy. And since Mr. Thompson and I all want you to be successful, I will leave you with that. Please remember to ask questions. Your paper is due by the end of the second session on Friday. After that, it will be late, and it will have late points off accordingly. So let's get busy and get done. Have a great day.